Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 6 of the Polarizer Podcast. Sounds kind of nice. Starts to sound like I'm actually doing something here. Today I'm talking to a friend I met when I was an exchange student in Florida in 2011, 6 years ago. And damn, 6 years. Time flies. That whole adventure was what sparked my interest in travel, but that's another story for another day. The guy I'm talking to today is called Big Jim, and he's in a band called Big Jim and the Speed Kings, and back when I met him, he was in a band called Sweet Pea's Revenge. And because I was a fan of his music, we started talking after the show, had a couple beers, and became good friends. And this guy has been a working musician for over 10 years. And his job was being a guitar player and a singer in a band. And talk about an interesting, adventurous life. That's a dream for many people. And now he has a music school, and he's got a family, he's got a kid, and he's slowed down a little bit. But we talk a lot about the touring life and the life on the road. And this guy has traveled to every state in the U.S. except for Alaska with his band. And we talked about life on the road, what it's like playing music for a living. At one point we get a little philosophical about the internet and phones, and also the state of the music industry today with the internet and how to make money as an artist and all that. And it was a very laid-back conversation recorded on the porch on a nice sunny summer evening in Florida. It was great to be back there, and I'm sure you can tell from the general vibe of the recording that I was having a great time. So without further ado, here's Big Jim, and I hope you enjoy the show. Sit back and relax and all that, blah, 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 blah.
Recorded someplace random on this interesting planet we live on, with your host, Nick Hube. You're listening to the Polarizer Podcast.
Cool. Man, I'm fascinated by your, you probably travel more than me.
Well, I haven't seen as much as the States as you, though.
Yeah, but the thing about the States is that, to me, you really have to look for the differences. You have some places like, regionally, it'll be obvious. Like if you go to New Mexico or you go to Arizona, if you live in the Southeast and you go over there, it's like, damn, I understand now. This is different. This is completely different. This looks like the surface of the moon, or it looks like the desert in some movie somewhere. But if you go from from the Southeast to the Midwest, in America, you see the same. It's possible to go to the four corners of this country and eat the same meal at a restaurant that's called the same thing.
Right. You got McDonald's everywhere too.
You do. But even people are building like a strip mall, and you can be sure that the three things that are anchoring that strip mall are a Verizon store. What else would there be? There would be like a vitamin shop or a GNC, and like a Domino's or something, you know. Whereas if you go, you have to look for things off the beaten path, right? And then when you find them, it's like I find myself every time I go back to a certain city, I want to go to, if I'm in Key West, I want to go to El Sabone to eat, not to, whatever else. The independent Cuban restaurant, or, if I'm going to go, if we're on the highway, we're on 85 or a 95 going north, and you go through Virginia.
Where are those?
They run north to south on the eastern seaboard.
Okay.
Right. 85 kind of cuts up through the middle of the Carolinas, and it kind of runs out there. But 95 goes from Miami all the way up. And if you're on one of those highways and you're going through Virginia, it's beautiful and there's rolling hills, but the things you have to kind of get to where where certain things are. Like there's one exit off 95. You're up that way, and if you get off the highway and you make a left, and then you follow this road that goes around this bend, you're out in the middle of nowhere, and all of a sudden you come upon this restaurant, and this restaurant is known for their fried donuts. And you gotta stop there, like little strange things,
right?
You gotta stop and you gotta have some donuts, man. Fried donut.
Yeah.
There's the best kind, the only kind, but they fry them right there. They make them right there, and then they just put them in a basket and they slide them onto your table. I think a lot of the American experience is tied up around food. Right. And that could be just me. It could have just been the band that I was in that we love to eat. But it was all. It centers around food,
Right.
And it's a social thing, I guess. The eating,
One thing I noticed is barbecue is a big thing.
Barbecue is
obviously
a big thing, yeah.
And but there's a big difference between regions of how barbecue is done. I mean, and I found that in the South it's mostly pork barbecue, but once you get to Texas, it's mostly beef. But within those regions, there's a bunch of different styles.
That's right. And if you go through Kansas City, we used to travel. We used to do a loop.
Yeah, let's start at the beginning. Like you're a musician, obviously. You played in many bands. Like when did you start playing, and when did you start? Like where did you start?
I started. I mean, when you start out being in a band, everybody has this sort of. Everybody has an idea, a reason why they start playing music, and for me, it was. I want to be in a band that travels. I wasn't very well thought out. I said, I want to travel and play music. And that was kind of the goal. It wasn't really anything beyond that. And, but the reason that's almost enough in and of itself is because to get to that, I say to get to that level, it sounds really, like we were at some kind of level. We weren't. We were making a living, but to travel and to play, you have to have your band has to be together. You have to have a product to sell. There has to be something that you have. You have to have something going on to have that happen. You have to be able to get the gigs to go play them. You have to be able to have the wherewithal, physically, mentally, and emotionally to get there. And to do that again and again, night after night, while you're away from home, to me, it was always fun. Some people that drives them crazy, they hate it. I always really enjoyed it. I like the idea of waking up in a new place. The idea of, hey, we're here, but we're only going to be here for, what is it, 6 hours, 12 hours, whatever it is, 4 hours or whatever. And then we're off. And we're gone. We're gonna in the wee small hours of the night. We're gonna pack our shit back in the trailer. Everybody back in the van, and by the time the sun comes up, we'll be in another state.
Right.
And
it's an adventure.
It was an adventure, yes. Yeah. And you can't. Everybody thinks, oh well, you party and you don't do a lot of. You can, but not if you're busy and you're going somewhere else. If you got another show the next night and it's a 4 or 6 hour drive from there, you have things you have to take care of. You can't just do that and be drunk all the time. I mean, you can, but you won't last very long.
Right.
But I always wanted to travel and play music, and so I started a band called Sweet Pea's Revenge in New Orleans in 1996.
Oh wow,
long time ago, and it took us 2 years before we even started traveling away from New Orleans to play. And then we really kind of got going in the end of 99, 2000, and really traveled really hard for the next 6 years after that. And then...
What was your setup?
We had a 3-piece. It was me on guitar and vocal. We had this guy named Stephen Randall, for most of the time on drums. And then our bass players sort of changed around. We had Andy Mayer was our one for the longest and my favorite. But it's obviously you need to be able to play well together, and you need to share the same goals musically and commercially and all that stuff. But if you're going to travel with somebody, you need to be able to get along.
Right.
So that's kind of like the main thing.
Yeah.
You know,
a band is like a marriage between a bunch of dudes.
it is. It's like a sexless marriage between a bunch of dudes. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what it's like. I guess in some bands there's sex, but that wasn't our thing. But yeah, you got to be able to get along, and you know, we were able to do that and stay excited. I remember that, you know, like I said, there were different bass players throughout the years, so I know that sometimes we would be playing with someone. I'm thinking of one fella in particular that he will remain nameless for this, but he was all excited. He wanted to go play with us. And so I said, great. Here's what we're going to do. Next week we're off. We don't go anywhere. So I want you to come over to my house. We're going to learn all the songs. And we did that. And I said, okay, I'm going to be by to pick you up on Wednesday, and we'll be back 3 weeks from that Wednesday, or that, you know, Monday, almost 3 weeks from when we leave. And I'll bring you back to your house on that Monday morning. We should get in somewhere around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. He was like, great. I've been wanting to do this forever. So first trip, I pick him up. He gets in the van. We go play the shows. I bring him back 3 weeks later, drop him off at his house. He's got money in his pocket. He's happy. Man, I had a great time. That was fantastic. Great. And I was like, okay, good. Next week, we're going to go out again. And he was like, what? Wait a minute. We're doing this again? I was like, yeah, we're doing this again. We're going the other way this time. You know, and last time we went down to Miami and up through Virginia. And in a week and a half, we're going to leave again. We're going to go out west. And he was like, I don't think I can do that. I don't think I can do that again. I was like, well, this is what it is, you know? So you have to kind of have that mentality of, you know, you're home for a little bit, but then you're ready to go again. And that's really why I stopped doing that. In 2006, I had my son was born in 2004, and as soon as he started realizing that I was gone, I didn't want to be gone anymore, because then he was missing me, you know, and I could tell when I would leave, he was like, oh, you know, that's not good. And it's was tired of it too. You get worn out. 10
years, you know, like it's solid
at various levels of that. I mean, we didn't really bust it, but for like, you know, 4 or 5 years. But I think that it's plus you got to understand too, with no some airplay on some radio stations in certain markets, but back then there wasn't a Pandora yet. There wasn't a iTunes really too much till the end, you know. It wasn't really a thing. So it was different. If you wanted to go play, you had to get in the van and go play. And now, if I release a record, and I released a record last year, and it's on Pandora, and so I don't need to drive to Kansas City to play for 20 people in a club. Hopefully there would be more, but sometimes it would be, you know, 10 to 20 people, you know. Right. The internet does that for me.
Right, and while we're at it, what's the name of the latest recording?
The latest recording is now the band is called Big Jim Brown and the Speed Kings, and the latest record is called After All, It's Been Forever.
Yes.
Yeah. And another one coming out probably in the fall of this year of 2017. We're going to record it actually in about 3 weeks at my little brother's studio in Greenville, South Carolina.
Cool.
Yeah. So really happy about that.
Oh, nice. Oh.
Something new.
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Thank you, man. Yeah. I think that I think that of all the things that I could have done after getting out of college, this has been one of the most fun. I don't regret doing it. The experience has been wonderful. Like you said, I've seen a lot of the country. I've gotten to play music to a lot of different people.
So New Orleans was always your home base, right?
New Orleans was our home base. Yeah. Okay. I grew up in South Carolina in Greenville, but after college, I moved to New Orleans in 93. And
was that because of the music?
Well, I was supposed to go to graduate school, but I didn't really make it to the class as much. I started playing music for money, and I realized that was what I wanted to do, so I kind of dropped out of the master's degree program. Finding it, when you're starting out, it's so difficult to find guys to play with, and then to get gigs and to get some notoriety and just to get some attention, because there's so many people doing this. It's very difficult to get attention. Or at least it was back then. I can only imagine now. It seems a lot easier now when I'll do something, and it seems like all of the things that I was talking about, like YouTube. You can be on YouTube, you can be on Pandora, you can have your music for sale on iTunes, and it does so much of that work for you.
Right.
I remember having to go to, the way we would do it is we would go out, like I said, for 2 or 3 weeks, and we'd go to a string of club dates, and say we'd go to Shreveport. We'd be on our way from New Orleans. We'd go up to Shreveport, up to Kansas City. It's in Louisiana. It's at the top of Louisiana, right? So you go to Shreveport, and then you might go to, Kansas City, you go to Chicago, Dallas, whatever, however you route your trip, right? And each night you're in a different place. And if you sell, if it's a light night and you only sell 5-10 CDs, it's not, and of course that was the main way that people would purchase and listen to music back then. Right. You may or may not come back there. You probably come back there again and see if you can make it a little better. But sometimes you go to a market, like we go into Memphis, and there'd be like, 100, 200 people at the show, and you sell 50 to 70 CDs your first time there. Well, then you immediately try to book that again on your next time through and try to build that market.
Yeah.
So there were little pockets of success. I look at them as little pockets of success buried around the country. In Denver, we did really well. And, in some of the towns around Denver and Keystone, some of the ski resorts, we did really well. We went to Albuquerque as a part of that routing, I don't know how many times, and never did shit. Like, it just, you never knew. Right. We go to Albuquerque, we play at some of the best places in that city, and for some reason it just didn't catch on.
Right.
And so after a few times, you just, pick somewhere else to go.
Right.
And this is, granted, I'm telling anyone who's listening to this is how you fail in the music business, because we never, made any real big money out of it or anything. But I wouldn't say that it was a failure, because it was a lot of fun. And it was something that I meet so many guys that want to do that, and they're not sure how, and they're not able to sort of get it together to go and do that at that. I won't say at that level, because it wasn't glamorous, but really at that pace.
Right.
Because
it was your full-time job.
It was my full-time job. To be able to say that you play, it was really cool. People would say, "Hey, Jim, what do you do for a living?" And I would say, "Oh, I'm a guitar player."
Right.
I play music. And I love saying that.
That's the dream of a lot of people.
It is. It's a dream of a lot of people. So I think when you're locked in it and you're sort of, fighting against your own, inner demons, and you're like, oh, you're a failure, or whatever you're telling yourself, it's important to remember that there's always usually somebody that would trade places with you gladly.
Right. Yeah.
To someone, you look like a success. To yourself, you may look like a failure.
Right.
But to somebody, probably a lot of people, they think, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, if I'm bitching and moaning, like, if I see one more shitty hotel room and a gig with nobody at it, I'm gonna blow my brains out. But somebody else would be like, man, I sure would love to go on that trip with you guys.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, that's it's a dream for many people to just travel around and the idea of the road and
yeah. It's a romantic thing. But then, and there's funny, many funny stories about, and not just from playing the gigs. I mean, I remember a lot of the shows, but I remember odd things more than that, like the donut place in Virginia, or I remember the time when we, found a Popeye's chicken in somewhere out in the desert, somewhere in the Southwest. And it was so unusual back then, Popeyes wasn't really a national thing. It was like, oh shit, there's a Popeyes.
Popeyes from New Orleans, right?
Yeah. So we were like, we're going to get some chicken, and, all of us forgetting.
I love that we're getting back to food again.
Yeah, we got to get back to food. That was where we, it was that kind of band. We didn't run on alcohol or drugs. We ran on fried chicken and shit like that. But we said, we're going to get some chicken. And so we pulled in, and there's this picture that I've got somewhere. Again, embarrassingly, this was really kind of before everybody, well, certainly before smartphones, and everybody had their, camera at the ready. But I've got this picture somewhere, and I have no idea who took it, because all of the band members are gathered around the hood of this vehicle we were in that day. And the chicken is all spread out on the hood. Like there's boxes of chicken and biscuits and big thing of mashed potatoes. And I mean, we are going to town on this chicken, and all of us have forgotten what digestive issues Popeye's chicken tends to bring on.
Oh, man.
And we have miles to go. Miles to go.
Miles without stops.
Miles with no bathroom. And so we all kind of remember about 2 or 3 hours into that drive why it was a bad idea to eat Popeyes in the middle of a road trip. But it was still, just fun things, being out, gone on an adventure with your friends.
Right. Yeah, but that's basically what it is, right?
That's it. I mean, you throw all you leave all your cares and worries at wherever you are leaving from. And, for the next 2-3 weeks, all you got to worry about is being on time to the place where you need to play your guitar.
Right.
And that's really fun.
That sounds like awesome.
It really is awesome. It really is awesome.
Yeah.
As long as you're able to maintain it with your family life, and monetarily, it can be a little bit of a challenge sometimes, and you just have to adjust your lifestyle to the in a way that will allow you to do what you want to do.
Right.
And I'm sure that's the same thing with everything. I've never been one to have a job that someone else has given me. I've always made my own thing.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah. It's better for me, but I know that comes with trade-offs.
Right.
I may be successful at whatever I'm doing at any given time, monetarily, but maybe I'm just in the beginning stages of it, and maybe I need to adjust my consumption level or my expectations accordingly, knowing that I'm delaying that gratification until later.
Right. Yeah.
You gotta be patient. And I think, I don't know.
Delayed gratification. If you're able, I'm pretty sure there's been research proving that that's one of the keys to success,
I'm sure it is. I'm sure that's got to be an indicator of your level of happiness, your level of success.
Yeah. And probably also has to do with intelligence on some level,
Maybe, but you can be smart and want something real fucking bad.
That's true.
Yeah. Real bad, and in a way that it just, and sometimes too with like playing music, there's no way to you can't go down and buy a book or take a class. I mean, well, they do have books. Somebody will always sell you a book, but how to do this, how to play music for a living.
Yeah. Well, man, like there's even like in the Netherlands, there's even a school for rock. Like, hey man, if you go to school here, you'll be a rock star. Like,
really?
It doesn't really work that way.
No, it doesn't really work that way. They can teach you some stuff that you need to know, maybe, but at the end of the day, it's you. It's like, how good of a hustler are you? Because that's what we spent most of our time doing, is working the phones, trying to find people, agents that would book us, you know.
That was going to be my next question. Like, how do you line up your gigs, and how do you find?
However you can, man. And you now see again. I'm handicapped in this explanation by the time when we did it. So much has changed in such a short amount of time. The internet is a wealth of information, and now there are all sorts of services that will help you. You know, I'm making little air quotes with my fingers for those of you who can't see me, which is all of you, that will help you get your music out there.
Right.
And there are, like I said, you know, great resources for that. Pandora, YouTube, blah, blah, blah. But you've got to, at the end of the day, if you're going to play a gig, somebody has to be willing to either let you come and play for free or give you money to come play music at a physical location somewhere. That means that you have to be there.
Yeah,
you have to have the equipment required. You have to have the skill required. You have to have the material to play. You have to have the skill to communicate well with your audience. You know, all these little things, you know, that it could be something as small as, you know, having decent equipment that sounds good, or something as big as, you know, not having stage fright so that you can get up there, and you're going to be really a long way from home. You're going to walk into a room full of people that you don't know anybody there. You have no idea who any of them are. They may or may not even want you there. They may not even want you to be playing. And you have to go in there and play.
Right.
And you have to face that, and you have to win them over. You know, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Ambivalence is the worst thing, you know. Not getting any sort of reaction at all is that's the worst thing. I'd rather somebody hate me than be ambivalent.
Yeah.
But our culture, and many cultures, I don't think just the American culture, because now it's so pervasive. You know, people look at screens now. They don't look at real people anymore. So they don't. I've noticed that in the last 3 or 4 years, audiences will sit and watch us. And I can tell they're liking it. You know, they're enjoying it. I know what it looks like when somebody's enjoying the music. I know what it looks like when somebody's not.
Right.
These people are enjoying it, and they're not distracted. They're paying attention. But then the song is over, and they don't quite know what to do.
Yeah.
Applause and the audience reaction is an old school thing.
Really?
People, but kinda, you know, some people know. Well, it depends on where you are. If you're in somewhere like Austin, Texas, they're going to know. Right. But if you're in somewhere like, you know, in the Southeast or some places in the Midwest,
that's an interesting observation, actually.
You know, they're just going to look at it. They're used to watching things on YouTube. Yeah. You don't interact with those things.
True.
You know, it's not your instinct to applaud when that's over.
True. Yeah. Well, it was funny. Look, I was in New Orleans this weekend, and we were sitting in this lunch place, and they had a guy with a keyboard and a lady singing. It was great. It's jazz. And when the song was over, no one was applauding. Everyone was kind of looking, and kind of you saw people thinking, should I clap or shouldn't? And I just started clapping, and people were like, oh, well, okay, I guess I just gave them permission to applaud too.
You did.
And by the third or second song, everyone was applauding.
Everyone, yeah.
But it was so interesting to see just kind of the non-reaction. People kind of has the deer in the headlights stare, like, oh, what should I do?
Well, to be the first one to applaud, you have to be the one to call attention to yourself.
Yeah.
And so some people are nervous about that too.
Right.
You know, so, and if you're in a big, you know, and again, I'm sort of demonstrating our lack of a following. I mean, because it's, you know, we're always in these smaller clubs, and, you know, the biggest things we ever did were, you know, we got to play the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, which is Jazz Fest, which is a great thing. And we did that a couple of years.
What's the audience?
That audience, there's thousands of people.
That's awesome.
You know, that's a big thing. And, you know, sometimes we would play at House of Blues in different cities, or,
that's cool,
you know, clubs like Tipitina's, and there would be, you know, a couple thousand people there or whatever. And that is a wonderful thing. But then the very next night we'll be at, you know, Bobo's Pizza Shack somewhere else, and there's a TV above my head, and there's like 20 people in there, and, you know, so it's a lot of ups and downs when you're at our level. So people, if you're in a small place, which is more often than not the case for an artist like myself, you will
don't keep downplaying yourself.
You will run into people that are reluctant to draw attention to themselves. They're not going to jump up and go, "Oh my God, that was great!
Right.
Y'all are fantastic." They're more apt to just sort of look. Now they're going to buy something from me. They're going to buy the music that I have to sell them, so I know they like it. But they're maybe what you did at the place where you were sitting in New Orleans. That's very helpful because you're showing them that it's okay. It's like, hey, let me remind you that this is sort of the social contract between the performer and the audience.
Right. Yeah.
We're going to give you our very best performance, and all you got to do is acknowledge it a little bit, and then we'll be happy.
Right.
And that's a great thing. And in some cases it's become more difficult to get out of people. It's the interaction. They're not used to interacting with what they're watching.
Well, I find that a lot of people are also socially awkward.
Yes.
More, maybe it's, I don't know. Like to me, it seems that more people are socially awkward today than 5 to 10 years ago.
Maybe.
I could be wrong.
Do you think that's more to do with the fact that we communicate more via devices rather than in person?
Yeah, I think so. If you're waiting for the bus or whatever, or it's so much easier and safer to look at your phone than strike up a conversation with the person next to you, because he or she might reject you and embarrass you. You
never know. And I think that I don't know that we're losing our ability to communicate spontaneously with strangers, really, but it is becoming more difficult.
Yeah.
Especially if you are. I have noticed that if you're standing waiting for something and the other person is sitting there looking at their phone, you're less likely. It's a wall.
Yeah, it's a wall. Yeah.
You're less likely to make some offhand comment about something that'll sort of get the conversation going.
Right, but people still really like it though, because I notice when I'm the one starting a conversation, even if it's silly or whatever, like it has to be about nothing. And when I do, people just light up immediately, like they're like thankful, like, oh wow, okay,
right,
let's talk. People still like it.
It's like, oh wow, they want to talk to me. I wonder if it's a situation where they are mostly, and look, I do this too.
Yeah.
It's like, wow,
me too. We all do it.
I'll do it. Yeah, but I'll have the thought of, I'll just go ahead and assume sometimes that they don't want to talk.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not, any sort of deep-seated self-hatred, like, oh, well, they don't want to talk to me. I'm actually pretty fun to talk to, but I just assume that they would prefer not to engage in anything. And that's a sad thing, because, you actually, I have people that have been in my life for years, and those people and I met by chance somewhere. And I started talking to them, say, at a restaurant while I'm waiting on a to-go order or something, and we'll talk about music. And then before you know it, I'll say, hey, well, if you like that kind of music, here's my stuff, you check out my stuff. And I have friends that I've had for 10 or 20 years that the relationship starts with a conversation, a stupid conversation in a silly place somewhere,
Yeah.
And you would have missed out on all of that had that not occurred. So I wonder what we're missing sometimes. What are we missing by keeping our faces buried in our phones?
True. Yeah.
And there's so much. Not to, well, we can talk about whatever we want to, but I will say this. There's too much, I believe, there's too much information available. There's too much of the world available on your phone. You get this sense of, I think that people are actually depressed about a lot of things because they think that the world is getting more dangerous. They think that we're in, danger of all being killed from terrorism, or we're all, going to die from global warming or whatever it is. And you say, oh, look at all these disasters. There have always been disasters. There have always been murders. There have always been bad things that happen. But the difference is that now about every single one of them instantaneously as soon as they happen.
If you want to, you can read all day. You can read 24 hours a day about horrible things
That's
happening,
exactly
and
right.
you still wouldn't read like a thousand of what's out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also, too, if you spent that time not reading about bad shit or any good or even good shit, if you just went out and lived a normal life that day, nothing bad would happen to you. The chances are very slim that anything disastrous would happen to you. You could go your whole life without actually witnessing all of the things that people are very worried about on a daily basis.
That's very true. Yeah. Well,
So it heaps up the negativity, so that, and that, I think, in turn, causes us to turn even more inward. Because if there's all this fear.
like that scary world, scary
that scary
people.
world, scary people.
Right.
Yeah. Very weird, man. I it's a wonderful invention.
I think we're just still getting used to it because it's still very new. We've only had it for 5 or so years, and now it's like optimized. Like every phone now is really fast, and you can find everything, and it's like big screens, and it's like right in your face, and it's
an age thing too. I mean, I know that I'm older than you. You're 30, and I'm 46, and I came along right in that shoulder time where at the beginning of my life there were no cell phones, there was no email, there was no internet, and now in the last 2/3 of my life, it's everywhere.
Right.
So I remember
it's even in your fridge now.
It's in your you got a smart fridge, and you can talk to your fridge. It's like, who knew you needed to talk to your fridge?
Yeah, you can control your fridge with an app on your phone now.
I mean, it's crazy, man. It's like, wow, you can actually look in your fridge.
I seen that.
To see what you need to buy at the store, so you don't need to, make the list. I wonder if
funny thing is though, like the generation, like the kids that are like really young now.
Yeah.
Interestingly, they care less about their phone than people my age.
Now, explain that to me. I'd like to know a little more about that, because I would assume it would be the opposite.
Because I think it's normal to them. It's like when
it's not special, huh?
Yeah, when it came about, we were like, oh wow, this is amazing, and they grew up knowing
they take
only
it for granted.
this, and they just take it for granted. Well, So I think it's just
that's good. I like hearing that.
Yeah,
I hope that's true.
Yeah, like that generation is they also is expected to be the most conservative generation since like the 1950s or something.
Oh man.
Yeah, like they don't care about tattoos, and then and then they they're all about like family values and all that.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, their family may look a little different, but they're all about the as long as we can get through all of the.
It makes sense when you think about it though, because like right now, like you when you're a kid, what your parents are doing or what older people are doing is not cool.
That's true.
Everyone's got tattoos now. Hey man, look at all those grown-ups with fucking dumb tattoos.
Yeah, my mom's got tattoos that got all sleeved up. I'm not going to get that. She's on her phone all the time on Facebook. That's lame.
Yeah,
exactly. That's true. I hadn't thought of it that way. Yeah, they will rebel, and when they rebel, they'll rebel the other way. So I guess you're right. It could be, they could get married and go to church as a way of rebelling.
Probably.
I don't know. That'd be funny. Oh, that's something else, man. Yeah. So I and you see just the way that the music business has changed, and everybody says that, the music business is not a business anymore. You can't make any money. That is certainly not true. There's more ways for you. I think that all of the changes that have come have been good. It has killed the record business as we knew it before.
Right.
But now
That's
you
not
are in
necessarily
complete
a bad
control.
thing.
It's not necessarily a bad thing. You can still make money. You can still, but now it's, the means of production are at your fingertips for a very little money.
Look at what I got here too,
Yeah, look what we're talking in.
I got a tiny little, I got a recording studio here that's the size of a big phone, I guess.
And look at what we're doing. We are conversing. We're essentially doing a long form talk radio show, right?
On your porch.
On the porch, and you did not have to get a job to do this. Nobody is looking over your shoulder. There's no sponsor that's breathing down your neck that's saying, hey, you've got to do such and such. You're allowed to talk to whomever you wish, and for however long, and about whatever you want.
Right.
And that's a great thing. You didn't have to sweep the floor at the radio station for 2 years and then be an intern and then, work your way up the chain.
Makes for a less cool story, though. Like, hey, man, I started at the bottom, cleaning toilets.
I'm sure you've cleaned a toilet before. You just didn't have to do it for this.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And a sponsor would be nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I mean, I'm just starting out, man. Yeah,
sponsorship, baby.
Got to get listeners first.
Got to get them dollars. Got to get them dollars. Well, I'm sure once that you put it out that you've got Big Jim Brown on your podcast,
yes,
the listeners will roll in.
Yeah.
I could promise you at least 2, maybe 3.
Well, I can maybe cost 2 or 3 people to buy some CDs.
If you build
it,
they will come, my friend. You just and that goes back to something else too. How many records have I sold in less than 20,000 records out of in all this time, and that is not an amount. That's an amount that would have gotten me dropped from any record label that I had been signed to, had I ever been signed to one. But I am happy doing that because I feel like that I am able to, I'm able to make music and share it with people.
Right.
And
that's coming from the right place.
It is.
Like that's what I want to do with this too. Like I didn't start this necessarily. I mean, it would be nice, but I didn't start this necessarily to get rich of it. Or whatever. I just enjoyed talking to people and hearing their stories. And
if you give good content, if you make something good, if you make something interesting, and it's interesting to you, and you feel like that you would like to listen to it, other people will too. There may not be, it may surprise you what those people are like, that you may be surprised at who likes your stuff, who listens to your show. If it's good, it's worth doing.
Right.
If it's interesting to you, it's worth doing. If it makes you feel somehow fulfilled, again, it's worth doing.
Right, yeah. I enjoy the hell out of it.
Then it's worth doing, man. Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes that's all there is.
Right.
And so that's a very important part of it. Right. I think that a lot of people, I've known some people who have had a lot of success in the music business or in the movie business or, different things that are not just, performance based, but some people find monetary success in their field and they feel trapped.
Right.
Because now they have expectations of doing things a certain way. And while I'm sure that the money helps them get over that, they do say, wow, I wish I could go back to the way it was before, blah, 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 when I could just do what I wanted to do. Right. And they miss something in that. So, I guess there's always a trade-off no matter what level you're at. But as long as you enjoy it, as long as it's good to you, man, you can't miss. Right. Because at least at the end of the day, you can be proud of what you've done.
True that. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. I don't think money is nice. Money is not bad or evil or great or whatever. It's great to have, but I don't think it should never be your main objective.
I think money just provides you with an opportunity.
Right.
They say money is power. I think it's power to be independent.
Yes. That's a great thing.
Yeah. It's always good to have choices. And I think the more money you have, the more choices you have. Maybe. At least I imagine that's true. You let me know.
Hey, man.
Oh, that's funny. But now, so now it's a matter of doing something instead of, like I said, I'm going to make another record at the end of the year and put it out. And I don't worry about, oh my God, are we going to be able to tour with this? Or are we going to be able to sell this or whatever? I'm just hey, is it good? Do I like it? Do I want to listen to it again and again? And if I do, then I'm happy. if I don't, then why do it?
Yeah.
You know?
True.
Why do it?
But that was one thing I was curious about too. Like you said earlier, that it was easier now to get your name out there. But before the internet was out there, you would sell CDs to get your music out there. But now
You would.
do you get income from Pandora or
Yes,
iTunes?
well,
And they said more or less or equal? Or
You get more. Well, you get more income from iTunes because that's a straight transaction. You know, the other stuff, it's like, are there enough views to share in the ad revenue? And
Right.
that for somebody like us, there's never enough really to generate any ad revenue money. But you know, iTunes is a straight deal. You know,
Right.
it's a 50-50 split, which is way better than you would get from any record company.
Yeah.
So if somebody buys my record, you know, I get money, real
Right.
money. And you can set it up to where you get paid at certain levels. Like they'll accumulate money and then they'll send you, when it hits this certain amount, they'll
Right.
send you a check, or they'll do a transfer, or whatever you want to do. And it's it's the same. I will say that if I were still traveling like before, I would be making more money on the sale of my music because I would physically still be selling it like I was before.
Right.
And then it would probably support and drive traffic to iTunes and all of that sort of synergy stuff that you would ideally like to have. But I've set up a life for myself that doesn't involve traveling around the country anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I'm pretty happy about that. I'm not itching to go get back in the van. I still like playing music. We just do it closer to home. And if we're going to go do something, it will be a special occasion rather than what we do all the time. And now, you know, we're sitting on the porch of this music school that I started 8 years ago, where we teach kids and adults how to play in bands together. And it's kind of like, people say it's like the movie School of Rock, but that phrase is trademarked, by the way. So it is not like School of Rock, but it is kind of like School of Rock. And so it's a way, music is still a big part of my life. I get to inspire that in other people. It's really a lot of fun. Make people smile all day. It's still a wonderful thing. And I'm not traveling around playing my music. I still do play. We probably do 2 or 3 gigs a month, and as opposed to, doing 25 gigs a month, it's much better. I like it.
It's kind of full circle. I mean,
it is. It is. And I sleep in my own bed, and I'm happy. I'm probably a little bit happier.
It's just a different phase, I think.
Yeah, just different phase. I'm not driven and always worried about being, accomplishing something that was not really ever in my control. We worked very hard, and we worked very hard for a very long time, and I'm happy with what we accomplished. I was not happy with what we accomplished at the time.
Right.
In retrospect, I feel good about it because now I'm able to sort of step back and say, wow, I was looking forward to this sort of hazy dream of becoming a famous rock star, whatever that means. There were rooms that I would play in where I would be a famous rock star. And then there were, I'd walk outside of that room and I was no longer, anything like that. And I think at the time it used to really bother me. I was like, wow, why are we not at whatever level I aspired to be at the time? And
it's good to dream big,
It is, but you also have to be enough. That's the thing, I kind of learned that your own life, your life outside of whatever it is that you're doing has to be enough, because no matter what happens, you are always yourself. You're never going to escape who you are.
Right.
So that you have to be okay without all of that. You have to be happy and fulfilled without all of that. And now that I look back on it, I'm like, wow, look at all this cool stuff we got to do. Look, I got to travel and play music for a living. There's so few people that get to say that.
True.
That in and of itself is a great goal to have achieved. And I should be, and I am. I'm happy about that. I'm proud of it. And we got to kind of do that, and it was neat. At the time, it was different. The mentality was, man, we were hungry for something. I'm not sure exactly what. Evidently Popeye's fried chicken, but we were hungry for this level of success that was just always seemed to be out of our reach. So it wasn't very fulfilling at the time, but now I look back on it and it was a great experience, but
well, I think
you got to be okay without it.
Right. Yeah.
Without the success, you got to let the experience be enough.
That's good wisdom in general for life, I think.
I think so. Yeah, the experience is, and really at the end of the day, the experience is all you got. The experience and the relationships, the love, and the all the feelings. Those are the real things that are happening. It's like this is. I think a lot of times we spend a lot of time looking forward, and we spend a lot of time looking back, and so our present is less important to us. Maybe when we're younger, I don't know. And maybe even now, because I still struggle with these things. You got to be in the moment. You got to love just this. Sitting here talking with you, doing this. This is a wonderful thing that we're doing.
I enjoy it.
And it's a great, that's enough.
Yeah.
It's enough. Yeah.
It's good.
That's pretty wise right there, man. That sounded pretty good right there.
I
almost believed that shit.
It's going to be a philosophy show.
Oh man.
No, but so how would you back to the band? Like how would you guys travel? Would you have a van? Would you have multiple cars? Would you have
we started
a
out
bus, private jet?
Oh man, the private jet didn't come till later. Limo. Yeah, we had we started out the first year or so. I had a Chevrolet Blazer.
That's which is SUV, right? A
small SUV. For those of you who don't know, I'm good. A 4-door SUV and we would pull a trailer, a little 6x10 trailer, and all of our equipment would be in the back of that trailer. Pardon me. And we did that for, I don't know, a year or two, and then
how many people in the car?
3 or 4, depending on if we had a helper.
Okay.
There was 3 in the band, and sometimes we'd have a helper or a driver, but that didn't really happen back in the Blazer days. About the third year, the end of the second year, we got a very, very nice customized Chevrolet van with the high top on it and the TV in the back and the captain's chair, the leather and the lighting, the recessed lighting and all of that. And it was and we put the trailer in the back of that. And that's when we started traveling with a driver guy that would load stuff, sound man, whatever he would do. And
that's cool.
He had all these jobs. But not all the time. A lot of times when we would go out, we would have just the 3 of us. And it was nice, I mean, we were sort of self-sufficient at that point. We could do anything we needed to do in there. It was like a dressing room on wheels, and we burned through 2 of those.
2 of those vans.
2 of those vans. There was another one after that, just like it.
Well, what happened?
They hit about 300-something thousand miles, and it was time to get something new.
300,000 miles. That's
the Blazer had 275. The first van hit 300, and the next one was damn close. So a lot of miles on those vehicles. But that's what you're doing. You're just driving. You're driving. You're eating. You're playing. You're sleeping. That's
right.
what you're doing.
Yeah.
Huh. It's not all, I know that if we had a different experience, again, that's our experience. That's sort of a do-it-yourself sort of, different way. You always imagine in the movies, or on TV, the band is in this big bus, and there are plenty of bands out there in a big bus.
Yeah.
And I remember at one point we looked into a big bus. I was mainly because I said, I really kind of want to do that. It's always been a dream of mine. to do a tour in a big bus, because that always seemed like, you were the shit if you had the big bus. And there are bands that do that. Holy Jesus, they must come home with no money at the end of the show. It's so expensive to have a big bus. You got to pay for the gas.
The fuel it burns, right?
Yeah, the fuel it burns, the driver, the cost of the bus. You lease them. Nobody owns, like super big people own their bus. But I think most people lease them. And then, of course, in Nashville, there's this big company that'll lease you a bus, and they'll give you a driver, and you can go wherever you want to go. Right. You just got to pay the bill. And so I have no idea how they do that, because there are bands that I've never heard of, and they got a big ass bus. But God bless them. I don't know. The money's coming from somewhere. We were trying to make money to support families, and so any money we could save, we would never have a bus. Right. That's going to cost us what? That's just too much money. So we stuck with the van thing, man, and it worked really well. And I think that if you manage your, again, you got to manage your expectations. You got to say, hey, well, bus would be nice, but we're going to just wait on that. Right. I'm still waiting.
One of my friends, he was in a band too, and they bought a bus. They bought a big. It used to be it was like a Greyhound style bus. Mm-hmm. It had the 6 wheels.
Yeah, and
they bought it from a church.
Oh yeah,
it was from the 1970s, and it had like 80,000 miles on it, which is nothing for a bus. And but yeah, they just had trouble. Like they had to keep
some
it
bitch
running.
Will break down on them though. Yes, sir.
It happened, and a full tank of diesel was more than $1,000.
Absolutely. And it's idling all night while you're in there soaking up your AC. Yeah, that's too Cadillac for me, man.
It had the Detroit diesel, 2-stroke diesel V8, and it sounded like a machine gun.
Yeah, man.
The thing was huge, and the band fell apart before they got to properly use it, and then they had to sell it, and someone stole the radiators out of them, and it was just a money pit in every way. Absolutely, man. Well,
that's the truth, and I'll leave you with. I'll tell you one more funny story here as we wrap it up. But we were in, I don't remember where we were. We were at some club somewhere a long way from home. And there was a 3-band bill. That means that there are 2 other bands playing the same night we are. Right. And we're sharing the bill. And the band that was supposed to go on first was not there. We had sound check. We were there. The other band was there. And we were supposed to go second, and the other band was closing the show. And none of us wanted to relinquish because the second and the third spot, really the second spot is the best spot in a 3-band bill, because there are going to be more people there.
Most people,
yeah. So we didn't want to go first. And the promoter was like, hey, can you guys go ahead and start? The other band is not here. And I'm like, we're going to wait. We'll just wait. It's okay. She said, well, I just talked to him. And they're having bus trouble. They've got this old school bus, and they're having bus trouble, and they're not going to be here in time. And I said, wait a minute, do they have an old school bus or an old school bus? Because it makes a fucking difference. It turns out it was an old school bus. Not an old school bus. That's much cooler than an old school bus. And yeah, man, they were broke down by the side of the road, and I don't think they ever showed up at all. They never made it. So but I remember being in playing at festivals, and that was always a good thing for us. If we could get a festival on one of our trips, that was great, because it usually pays pretty good, and it's the opportunity for us to play in front of more people, because there are people there to see these other acts, so we can kind of come in and play. But I remember being in the parking lot backstage, and it would be like bus.
I think
van, bus, and we were just sandwiched in there, and it's like, yeah, but we're gonna come home with money. And you guys are all broke.
Well, the thing is, I think with a bus, I think it's the same as a luxury car.
Yeah.
It's only fun when you buy it new.
Yeah.
And you can buy like a BMW or Cadillac for $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not going to go very far.
No.
And if you buy them new, they're like 80,000 or 100,000. And yeah.
If you can afford to pay for it, God bless you.
Yeah.
But otherwise, you need to be realistic and say, look, we are. We drove the Blazer with the trailer behind it probably longer than we had to, but that car was paid for.
Right.
And that was a reliable little car. It never left us anywhere. We were a little cramped and it wasn't very glamorous.
Right.
There was no rock and roll glory in that.
Is that the car, by the way, that's on the cover of the Live album?
It is.
Yeah.
That's the Blazer with the trailer, baby. Yes, sir. Yep. That's what that was. And we had to immortalize it. I think we put the silhouette of that on the back of a T-shirt one time.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And that was a fun time.
And did you give the car a name or?
No, you'd think we would have named all these vehicles, but we never named any of them. It was just the fucking van, and the fucking Blazer. That was it. That was it. That was just referred to as it was the place where we would go when we were forced back out onto the highway, but it was a wonderful thing, man. I remember being in there's a band that I really like called the Drive-By Truckers.
Yes.
And they are road warriors, man. Those guys have carved out a place for themselves. They were doing what we were doing at the same time, and I was not aware of them then. Nobody was. They persevered and kept on and found a way to make it pay. And I'm so happy for them. I don't know them personally, but I love their stuff. And to me, they're just their
music's cool.
They've come up the hard way, and I respect them so very much. They're still at it, and they still travel. And I know they're old. They're 10 years older than I am. So I know that it just kills them to still be doing that. But I know they love it too. But they sing a song.
It's not an easy life.
It's not an easy life, And they sing a song called Hell No, I Ain't Happy, which is about that. And it's about being in the van, 6 crammed in, we ain't never alone, and ain't homesick, ain't got no home. And that song is very telling. And he says in that song, I've seen the mountains of Montana at 7 a.m. And it's funny because I've seen all of these things. I know what he's talking about because I've seen all of these things that people travel to see, like the arches over the Mississippi River in St. Louis, and buffalo in the Rocky Mountains grazing in a field, and all these things. But I've seen him at all these fucked up times of day. Like I've seen him because I'm passing through in the middle of the night. It's like, oh, it's 4 a.m. There's the arches. There they go. Yep. And I'm always driving past them. Like we're never stopping. You
guys
like
never
we're on our
just
way
for like 2 minutes or something.
Sometimes, but most of the time you're going, you're en route.
You're on a mission.
You're on a mission, and the drummer's asleep, and the bass player's watching a movie in the back, and I'm driving, and we got gas. Nobody has to pee, so there's no reason to stop.
Right.
We got to be somewhere. You got to go. Got to do, and so I really identify with that song because, I know what he's talking about. You see all this really cool stuff, and it doesn't mean that you don't appreciate it. It doesn't mean that it's not interesting,
right?
But you do see it at these fucked up times a day, and it's a surreal experience sometimes. It's like, I have seen cool shit like a full moon in Colorado, out away from any light pollution, and there are something really beautiful, like there'll be the bison out there in the field, and they're all bedded down or whatever they do, and you look around, there's not another soul for who knows how far, and you're out there doing this thing. It's Wednesday night. Everybody else is home in bed getting ready for work the next day. It's a really cool feeling because it's almost like you're an outlaw from life. It's like, wow, I'm doing this. This is so much fun, and it's just a different experience. Not for everybody, but I certainly wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't go back and not do it.
Yeah, the one word that just keep on thinking about when you tell this. It's an adventure.
It's an adventure, man. Yeah. You throw your guitar in the back of whatever you're driving, and you're leaving home for multiple days, and all you got to worry about is you got to get to the gig,
right?
And then you got to play. You get to play. You don't got to play. You get to play.
Yeah,
that's fun. You don't got to play.
You got any crazy stories you wandered into a Roadhouse style bar like from the movie, or some crazy situation?
Like
the Blues Brothers, people throwing glass at you and you're behind chicken wire.
Thank God, no, we were never behind chicken wire, and nobody ever threw anything at me, I don't think. You're in an alcohol-fueled environment. I mean,
loose women.
There's all kind of loose women, but we managed to avoid most of them. There's some funny. There's funny shit. I mean, you see, you kind of get to. I always say this to people when they say, they ask about the obvious thing with a traveling rock band is, well, you had a lot of sex, right? And sex is a wonderful thing, and who doesn't love going out and fucking a bunch of strange people? But I will say this: we were there, wherever we were working.
Right.
You think about it like this: we're playing music, we're enjoying it, but we're working, and you
got to be professional.
You do have to be professional, but also too, just the dynamics of what you're doing. Say, you're playing until 2 a.m. or whatever you're playing until. And at that point, the night is kind of over. You know what I mean? Yeah. Everybody's really, if they're still there, they're really fucked up. They're hammered. And, hammered women are generally not attractive, but I mean, they can be, and I'm not saying that they never were, but I'm just, usually what you wind up doing is sort of feeling sorry for people that are still there, they're still sticking around. It's like, you need to go home, make a good decision, sweetheart. And I got to go, and you really should too. And, I had no idea who you are, and that should probably, let's keep it that way, and just good luck to you, and I hope that sore on your mouth clears up. And plus too, I said at the beginning of this that you couldn't stay drunk all the time and be successful at this, and you certainly can stay drunk all the time and be successful at this. You just have to be a little luckier and have some people around you to take care of you, which requires a lot of monetary success. But the other thing that I will sort of make a little addition onto that statement is that it also, I know guys that take advantage of every single opportunity they have in that department, and they're busy, man. They're busy. They got girls everywhere. Girls here, girls there. I know this girl over in Mobile. I got this other girl up in Tallahassee, girls all over the place. And those guys, they're tired. They get worn out just like guys that drink all the time. And it's hard to have a real life. You have to realize that it can be as adventurous as you want it to be. But if you want to have some staying power and be at it for a long time, you really kind of have to get over that stuff pretty quick.
Right.
It has to be enough just to be able to, I would love for some woman to want to go to bed with me, but I'd kind of rather some woman want to listen to my songs.
Right. Yeah.
At this point, I'd really kind of prefer that because it mean more to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it always kind of has. I think we were kind of, I don't know if we're different. Bands don't talk about the sex thing much, with each other. We kind of know the dudes that are real busy in that department, and we kind of talk about them and, oh yeah, so-and-so, he was at it again. But, there's not a lot of future in that. I mean, you're not going to get, you're going to burn out on that too. Right. You're going to cause problems for yourself. You're going to wind up getting somebody pregnant. You're going to get some sort of disease, or you're just going to get tired.
Right.
It's going to get old.
You got to keep your eyes on the ball, so to speak.
So to speak. Keep your eyes off the titties and keep your eye on the prize. eye on the prize. And the prize can be whatever you want it to be. For me, it was just always, I just want another tour. I just want to book another tour. I want people to listen to us. I want to have a reason to do this. I don't want to feel stupid doing this. I want to feel somewhat legitimate. And I don't want to be, I don't want to, I want it to be very obvious when you come and see me play why I'm doing it.
Right.
It may not be your type of music, may not be what you like, but I don't ever want anybody, I want to always be proud enough to say, we did that well.
Right.
Like I know why I'm doing this because I do this well, and whatever is required to do that, that's my holy grail. That's my goal, is to do it well. Yeah.
That sounds like a healthy way to go about it.
I reckon so, man. I guess I'm lucky that was just always the way I thought about it. It never was for an escape, really, or anything. It was just because that was what I wanted to do when I was little. I was like, man, I want to do that.
Hey, you got to do it, man.
I got to do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Very cool. And now you fulfilled your lifelong dream of a podcast and go on to greatness.
Yes.
Be on Sirius Radio. I see it now.
Someday.
The bitches lined up.
Well,
you're getting married. You can't do that.
Yeah, I guess. Well, Howard Stern's getting old, so
Howard Stern
taking over his studio.
Man, I tell you what, that guy is. I used to listen to him a long time ago.
Yeah, and me too, actually. But
yeah,
I don't know. He kind of lost it. I think he's just not funny anymore.
It was when he went on the America's Got Talent.
Yeah.
And
just got blinded by money, I guess.
But I remember back in the Jackie days and the Jackie Puppet days, and even when Artie came, it was still a great show.
Still good. It was funny.
It was funny
because it was just funny for the sake of being funny, and
it was.
Then I don't know why he changed his show, but whatever.
He got real politically correct, and
and which is the opposite, of why it was funny in the first place. It was great because he wasn't.
He wasn't. It was just himself. And I will say this, and who knows? Who am I to say? But I think it was the new wife.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't marry. And I kind of see the decline. I mean, when he was married to his first wife. And that was when I discovered him, in like 93 and was an avid listener until like
so good.
2000. And then I kind of came back to the show in 03, 04, 05. And then I don't know, man. It just, after Artie left, it was just weird.
It was over.
Yeah.
After that.
It really was. It really was. I have no idea what it's like now.
It's boring. It's lame. It's
just kind of
it's turned into everything he made fun of.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah. Somebody I saw this thing that Artie did on a podcast. Really, his podcast.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how he used to make fun of all these people that he's friends with now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
Anyway, Howard, you were great at one time, and I'm sure you'll hear this. But, if you want to know how to fix your show, you should call us.
Yes. Listen to the experts.
That's right. Get you a little something off this podcast. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Well, cool. That's probably what made you think that, when you hear somebody that's a good communicator.
Yeah. I mean, that's... Ever since I started listening to talk radio, I discovered that when I was in the U.S. for the first time, and I had a rental car that had Sirius in it, and they played like old Howard Stern shows. Like, wow, what's this? This is cool. And I wasn't really familiar with that kind of format. I mean,
he really kind of made that format back in the day, man. I mean, there was talk radio, but it was like take some calls.
Yeah,
the whole thing of just him. Talking,
making jokes.
Yes, and no set commercial break. And that was the big thing too back then, because all the stations would be like, okay, well, we're going to have a quarter-hour break, we're going to have a, bottom of the hour, top of the hour. These are gospel, we're not going to, and every now and then if they want to do something really cool, they would do something, they would sweep the quarter hour, which means, we're going to skip a break.
Right.
But, I remember listening to him.
You still do that now. If you listen to the radio here, it's like, we got the 6-pack, 6 songs.
Yeah, the 6 balls. Wow, man.
Without commercial.
Yeah. And, Howard would talk for an hour with no commercial break. And, the station manager, which was Tom Chiasano, but when I was listening to him, would come in just apoplectic. You got to take a break. And
that would make the show interesting.
It would make the show interesting, but also, too, you knew when he took a break, it was going to be about a 10-minute break because they had all these spots to get in. So, and then he would sit there and read live commercials. The guy was really something. I remember listening to him and thinking, this guy, and, there are other people that are really good at communicating on the radio, but he was really something special in that regard, I think, and really, really kind of showed people that you don't have to have a persona. You don't have to have a script. If you are interesting and you're honest and you're willing to say what's in your head and you have a good sense of humor, you could be interesting to listen to. You could be successful. Right. It was a new thing. It was like all the dude's doing is talking.
Yeah.
But nobody else would do it.
Yeah.
At the time.
Right. Well, I mean, kind of paved the way for all this too, I guess.
Absolutely, man. It's like anything else.
I don't think I've gotten into this if I hadn't found out about the show at some point.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I've listened to a lot of podcasts now, and I just really, really enjoy it. There's something for everyone out there. Artie's is good. The Adam Carolla podcast I've heard is good. I listened to the Adam and Dr. Drew show. That one's fun. Yeah. It's like half an hour long. It's nice for in the morning. Sure. During your drive. And another one, Tony Kornheiser, is more of a sports guy. Okay. His show used to be called the show for the sports show for people who really don't care for sports. That's so funny. I think that was his. But he's really good. He's got a good one. Gilbert Gottfried's podcast is great. I'm sure it is. Like that guy doesn't give a fuck. No, he doesn't give a fuck. He's kind of. Sometimes it reminds me of Howard's old show because it's just so out there. Like the best was when he would come on and do the news. Yes. That was the best. And now he's banned from the show. Yeah, because he's it's not politically correct enough. I guess, man. You can't. It's just it was a different time, and I feel fortunate that I was able to experience that in real time. Yeah. Not have to go back and listen to tapes. I remember all that stuff, It's cool. So it was really a fun. We need someone like him again because the world has become too politically correct now. It has. It's insane, man. It has. There's not enough counter noise. The pendulum will swing back the other way. Yes. Don't worry. Just like you said with the younger generation, things will be different. Probably, yeah. Yeah. Well, well, let's see what else we got to talk about. Well, like I said, you've been to every state pretty much. Yep. Just about. There were some, I guess, we kept going back to these places where we would have some success. So we probably were, we'd go to Colorado all the time, And what are some good music cities around the country? Music cities, man. I would love to play. I love playing in Austin, Texas. It's funny, the best music cities pay the worst. Because they have a lot. Yeah. That's right. And so if you're going to go to Austin, or you're going to go to Nashville, if you're going to go to Memphis or something, place where people would expect to be a good music town. There are so many bands. It's difficult to make money there. So we would make our money in like Bug Tussle, Alabama, and then the next night go play in Nashville for nothing, But you go to the college town in, I can't even, Murfreesboro. Actually, that would pair up well. We would go to Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and then the next night we would play in Nashville, which is like an hour away. And the Murfreesboro gig would be a college bar, and we'd make, $500,000 or whatever it would be. And then the next night is literally no money in Nashville, but you do that for again, I'm making air quotes, the exposure. But it was cool. You would do it for that reason. And it so often
it was a balancing act. It was like, okay, we've got these 3 gigs that are going to pay really well, and then we're going to do this 4th night at a place where we just want to play, because we want to play there, because we want to say
we played in Nashville.
We played in Nashville, or we played in Chicago, or we played in wherever, right. and then or Austin. You know, there are 8 million bands in Austin, Texas. So, you know, if you're going to play there, you're not going to make any money unless you're, you know,
great.
Yeah, somebody
or
that's
like
going
on top, I
to, you know,
guess.
Government Mule or something. They're going to sell tickets unless you're selling tickets.
Yeah.
We weren't selling any tickets. We were just at the place, you
Right.
know. It's just, you know, a good music town is probably not going to be very lucrative. You're out of the way places.
That's interesting.
Yeah, you're out of the way places.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Because there's not a lot of competition. There's not a lot going on. You know, so that was why we would go to these very unglamorous places to play, because if there's a college there, or there's a bar there.
Right.
If there's a club there, we're there. That's where we need to be. So,
yeah. College crowd is probably a good crowd too, because they drink a lot and they throw money around, and
they do. And plus, you know, if you want a gig on a Wednesday night in a rock club, that's who's coming to see you.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a jobs at home.
Yeah. Good point.
So you need that. You need those places. And I'm not sure. I don't even know if they're still around. I know a lot of the places we used to play are gone, and I'm sure that in some ways some things have sort of come up to take their place. But college seems to be a different experience now. As you were saying with the political correctness, the kids seem different. They seem younger. They seem like children, whereas a lot, you know, up until
safe spaces,
safe space,
shit,
and all
like,
that stuff.
I mean,
we were like little adults. You know, we wanted to be older. We wanted to do things that,
right.
And now they
I don't want to be safe.
Yeah, I don't want to. That's the whole reason I'm here is not to be safe. Yeah. So it seems odd, but I'm so old now. I feel like that I'm that I can't really say because I'm really not involved in it. But
I feel the same way too, and I'm only like 10 or so years away from that generation.
You were
but
just there,
sometimes even if you're just, you know, like to me, you gotta walk on eggshells with everything you talk about.
Yeah, you never know who's going to get mad.
Yeah, even if you say to someone like, "Hey guys, come over," like, "Guys, how dare you?" There's a couple of women in our groups. Like, they're not guys. Like, did you just assume their gender and all that weird shit?
Yeah,
50 genders. Who came up with that all of a sudden, man? That's
very strange. And that's the thing. It's not that I have absolutely no problem with any of that. You know, you can do whatever you want to do with your private parts, and you can fuck who you want to fuck and marry who you want to marry. I don't care. But don't force me to care and participate in your whatever. You know, it's called live and let live.
Right.
It can't be a one-way street.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that I think they're just told, you know, they're just told. The professors have told them whatever. They're who knows? I don't even know. But it's tiring. You know, it's like I would rather not even deal with you, and so consequently, you're going to miss out on this interaction.
Right.
You know, and I'm going to miss out on it, assuming that they had something to contribute. You know, it's like I would rather just pretend like you're not there.
And they're gonna have a harsh wake up call too when they enter into the real world.
Would imagine.
Because the real world doesn't give a fuck. One
would imagine, but, you know, one wonders, you know, is the real world going to start to mirror that a little bit?
I doubt it. I mean, like the people who run the show, mostly they don't care about that.
I guess.
They don't got time for that shit.
Yeah, I guess people feel like that... you know, when it comes down to making money, which is really what you find out pretty quick that's regrettably or not, it's a large part of it, you know, real life and being grown up. You need to support yourself. And if you're going to be involved with a family, you need to support your family. And I know that's an old school thing to say as a man. Certainly, the day of the man being the breadwinner and the sole provider, that ship has sailed. And I'm not sure it was ever really that true. I think that there was always a contribution made from both sides, but
for sure.
Certainly monetarily now, at least the people that I know, all the musicians that I know, all of their wives make more money than they do.
Right.
It's just a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, what you want to do, really and truly, if you want to play music for a living, marry a nurse. That's what you got to do.
All right. Well, if there was any, very nurse. That's good.
Marry a nurse.
Yeah, they're good outfits too.
Hey, that's always those scrubs can fit tight. They can be hot, but that's a profession that they make a lot of money.
I'm sure you offended a whole lot of people with that too, by the way.
Yeah, hey, men can be nurses. You can marry a male nurse if that's your thing. I'm sure that I have, but I think that I know a lot of dudes, man, and they say they play music for a living. What they really do is they live with a woman who works a really good job. And that enables them to go out and play music, and they don't, have to make any money. And women are very nice and supportive, and they're like, well, he's contributing, following his dream, and I'm just happy to help. I'm like, oh, damn. All right. My wife's like, you need to get your ass out there and make some money. My wife ain't no nurse. But when it comes down, and all kidding aside,
to be honest, though, I think if that's a situation, I don't, like, deep down, I think I don't know, like, I don't think a dude will get a lot of respect.
No, probably not. But you could have guys, and here's the thing. Here's the funny thing about music. People that have a lot of respect, it doesn't always translate into dollars. Like, I've known guys in New Orleans.
I'm saying, like, if you're with your girlfriend or your wife and she's making money and you're
not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, some
doesn't
people
really feel right.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I've seen it so many times, and marriages that last a long time. I'm thinking of one person in particular, and I will not say his name. But this guy they'll be married forever. And, he's not a bad guy. It just, music doesn't really pay that much. It's you have to get to such a level before you start to really make dollars. And look at it this way. Like, I would have years, like I'd have 1 year where I'd make like 30 grand or 40 grand playing music.
That's good money,
and
though.
That's great money. Then the next year, you could make like 18. It's very much like sales in that it's never what you've done. It's always, what are you going to do?
Right.
Okay, great. That was a great tour. We all came back home, and we actually, we were gone for, it would be a big deal to be gone for 10 days and come home with $1,000.
Right.
That's really not that much money for that amount of work. For 2 weeks, come home with $1,000. I mean, you'd be happy about that. There's guys that are in bands that you've heard of that live in New Orleans that go out on the road and they come home and their power's turned off and they got no money. They go wash dishes for 2 weeks till they go out again.
Damn.
I mean, and those are guys that play at Jazz Fest and that are like in bands that are known. And some of them might even have a fucking bus. Probably if their power's turned off. But they just it's not, it can be, you can make a living, but it's not a big living. And you have to manage your shit. And like
it's more a lifestyle than a career. No, that's not true. Like,
it's the way it is.
It's more a lifestyle than a job.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the way to phrase it.
That's true. Yeah. And you're hesitant. And here's the thing that happens a lot. You're always hesitant to take a job because you think, oh, well, then I won't be able to play. What if we get a gig way out in, East Jesus and we got to go and, I got to work and I can't take this job because I might get this, it gets to be a psychosis after a while. It's like, okay, we're going to, it's time to, I hate saying it this way, but it's time to grow up and make a little money. It's time to grow up and handle your business a little differently. You can still play, you can still do it, but you need to do it from a place that is from in reality. You need to deal with real life,
Right.
Or you'll just be stuck in this perpetual cycle of a bullshit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that makes sense. It's a realistic way of looking at it, I think.
Yeah. Well, as soon as you get to be 40 something, you kind of, and when that starts creeping up on you, you tend to get a little more realistic. Because you have things you'd like to do and obligations that it's not that you have to fulfill them, but you actually want to. You want to be successful. You want to not just to have nice things or whatever, but to contribute. You want to contribute to your marriage. You want to contribute to your family. You want to contribute to society. You want to do things for yourself. And that doesn't always involve going off on an adventure all the time. Sometimes the adventure might be a lot less glamorous, but maybe more fulfilling.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Parenthood is an adventure. It's not very glamorous, but it's the best thing that I've ever done.
That's what most people say.
Yeah. And I wouldn't do it. It's not for everybody. And it, it's the most important job you'll ever have. So you got to make sure you're ready to do it before you do it.
Yeah, that's good advice.
And make sure you do it with the right person.
Yeah.
Which you seem to be on the road to doing that.
I hope so.
She seems like a nice girl.
Yeah, she's cool.
I'm sure she'll only yell at you sometimes.
Yeah. Only when I deserve it.
Only when you deserve it, which will be all the time.
Hey, come on, man.
Well, man, I have enjoyed this.
Yeah,
this is fun.
Me too. It's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, we've gone for an hour and a half at this point. So.
Right on.
Is there any if there was one thing you'd have to say to like an aspiring musician, talk to a guy in his bedroom who just bought his first guitar with the dream of hitting the road, and
Oh, it's fun. You got to make sure the thing that you have to make sure of is do not get sidetracked from your goal. If that is your goal, if you have the same goal that I had once upon a time, which is to travel and play music in front of people, then stay focused on that one thing. Do it as much as you can where you are right now, wherever you are. If you live in Greenville, Mississippi, God help you. But if you live in Greenville, Mississippi, then go and find the place in Greenville, Mississippi to play in front of people and work your way into getting a gig. You're going to get a gig on a Tuesday night for free. Always be willing to give, to do it for nothing. If you're willing to do it for nothing, people always say, oh, we got to make sure you get paid. You'll get paid. That'll come. But you don't be afraid to start out at the bottom. Go and give it away at first, because you need the experience. You need the gigs. You need to do, a couple hundred gigs before you really figure out how to do it. So you got to get out there and do it. You got to get those gigs under your belt. Start early. It's never too soon to start. You can be a kid and do it. And I've gone out and played on the street before. Go play in front of people. Do it as much as you can. You're gonna have some good gigs. You're gonna have some bad gigs. You're gonna have some great gigs. But you need the experience, and stay focused on playing music in front of people. It seems really stupid to say that, but you can get caught up in worrying about things that don't even matter, like the band politics and who owns this song and what are we going to do. You're worrying about a bunch of shit that doesn't matter. Go play the gig, learn some covers, write some songs, play them in front of people, and just get your feet moving. Keep your feet moving in the direction that you want to go. Don't ever become overwhelmed to the point where you are no longer playing in front of people. If you're doing that, something is wrong. You got to fix that. You got to simplify things. Even if you can't get a band together, Go play by yourself. Admittedly, if you're a drummer, that's harder. You got to kind of have a band. Bass player, same thing. Learn to play a little guitar, strum a few chords. Go play in front of people. Don't worry about the money. The money will come. Money comes from people wanting to see you play. So if I were to go down here to this club down the street, walk in there and say, I'd like to bring my band in here to play here. We'll come and do it the first time for nothing, whatever night you say. Chances are they'll probably book you. It's not going to cost them anything. If you have a little demo to show them, that'd be great. But they'll probably just book you. It's not the House of Blues. I'm talking about the shitty fucking bar down the street. Go do that. Out of the 10 people that are there, or the 50 people, whatever it is, if you can get a couple of them to like you, they will come and see you again. After you've done that 10 times for nothing, you have a couple hundred people there. Now you go to the owner and you say, hey, listen, look at all these people I can bring in. I'd like to play on a Friday, and we'd like to get $400 or whatever, $500. If he tells you no, then you go down the street and you say, hey, we've been playing over there at such and such, and we got a couple hundred people coming to watch us. Can we have a Friday night? We need $500. That place will say yes. And you do that again and again and again and again. And I know it sounds like a lot to do, but all through that process, you're learning your craft. You're learning your trade. You're learning how to do it. All of the things that go into it, equipment, setting up, being there, the playing itself, communicating, keeping a band together, all of those things you need to learn how to do. That's how you learn. You go and you do it. Now, when you are able to do that in your hometown and you can draw a couple hundred people on a Friday night, now it's time to go to the city next to yours and do the same thing. And you try to do it again and again. And when you are able to do that, then you travel and then you do it. And you just repeat that process over and over again. Beyond that, I have no idea. We never got any further than that. We just did that in a bunch of different places, but it sure was fun. And I'll tell you what, I can play a gig and put on a show in my sleep. And I've done it probably close to 2,000 times in my life.
Wow.
And that's, I love that. It's great. It's what I always wanted to do. So guess what? I'm really good at the thing that I always wanted to do. And that's awesome. Is enough.
That's awesome.
And that's good because really that's all there is. At the end of the day, that's all I've got from it. But I tell you what, I love it. I love that feeling. I love knowing that. And really for me, that is more than enough.
Well, that's. I think we'll wrap it on that. That's
all right,
great.
man.
Well, one more time. What's the name of your last CD?
The new CD. Well, the newest CD that's out now is called "After All, It's Been Forever," and it's Big Jim Brown and the Speed Kings, and it's on iTunes and Pandora and Spotify and all those places, man.
Any other website you want people to check out?
You can go to BigJimBrown.com and check out tour dates and stuff.
Cool.
Such as they are.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dick, man. I enjoyed it.
Me too.
It was fun.
Yeah.
All right, man.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. And see you next time. And we'll go out with Golden Sun of the new CD. After All, It's Been Forever. Enjoy, guys.
Scenes that I went through, like different points of view, they left me feeling ragged and alone. Promises I'd made and riches I had laid, they came up lacking against your tongue. But I'll be lying in the golden sun, half asleep on Tanqueray. Your shadow falls across my face, and I hear my voice say, I'll be sailing when the morning comes, with a scar upon my chest, the smell of you still on my skin. My memory does the rest. Silence that I hear is ringing in my ears. Makes me for the first time wonder if I've been outgunned. But I'll be lying in the golden sun, half asleep on Tanqueray. Your shadow falls across my face, and I hear my voice say, I'll be sailing when the morning comes, with a scar upon my chest, and the smell of you still on my skin. My memory does the rest. Different points of view, they left me feeling angry and alone. Riches I had laid and promises I made, they came up lacking against your tone. But I'll be lying in the golden sun, half asleep on Tanqueray. Your shadow falls across my face, and I hear my voice say, I'll be sailing when the morning comes, with a scar upon my chest, and the smell of you all on my skin. Dreams about the rest.
You've been listening to the Polarizer Podcast. Check the show notes for links and details on literally everything that was discussed and mentioned during the show.
Subscribe to this podcast for free on iTunes or your other favorite podcast directory to never miss an episode. And be so kind to give us a 5-star rating and review. Visit thepolarizer.com for high-quality articles on making life an adventure, traveling the world, being the best you can be, and other topics that fuel the fire in your soul. That's thepolarizer.com. One word, including the.
Thank you for listening, and thanks for telling a friend. It really makes all the difference.